Major League Baseball talks about a Major League citizen, and that's true. It's not just a citizen, they want a Major League citizen. So it's not just a Major League player. So with that, I'm going to turn that over to Carlos and let Carlos expand on some of the things that he's got going on here in the community. And if you guys got questions, I don't care what they are. We don't care what they are. Man, let them fly. Let them fly. I want everybody to get in on this discussion, but at the end of it, I want everybody to walk away with something. So, with that being said, Mr. Carlos Nelson, Cascade Sports.
All right. I see quite a few faces that I already know here. My name is Carlos Nelson. I'm president of Cascade Media Group, which has 5 different properties, but what we're dealing with today is sports. Cascade Sports is really the only black-owned digital sports network in the Midwest. We're in 76 cities in 10 different countries. And we primarily focus on high school sports and basketball, volleyball, and things that you do in the gym, basically what we focused on over the last 12 years. But we had looked at baseball back in 2014, but you have to have, baseball's a slow game. You need multiple cameras really to cover it properly. And so at this point, we were seeing how we could break into covering baseball, because I grew up in New York City. When I was young, 5th, 6th grade, I grew up when they lived right over there by Shea Stadium. Willie Mays was my neighbor. When I got in high school, I grew up in high school 3 blocks from Yankee Stadium. And so my heroes really was like Yogi Berra, Mickey Mantle, Roger Maris. I didn't really know anything about the Negro League baseball until I came to Kansas City. And I learned about Satchel, I learned about Josh Gibson, I learned about the role that African Americans played in the game of baseball. As I said, we've been doing basketball for such a long time, but I started a relationship with Bob Kendricks. If you go to our network, CascadeSports.tv, and the drop down and you go to baseball, you see a whole lot of different things that we did with the Negro League, including we did quite a few pieces on about 10 of the Hall of Famers that Major League Baseball contacted us about. Just as late as last week, Josh Gibson's grandson contacted me, Sean Gibson, out of Pittsburgh. But since we had been working with the IL, I said that, and I have an office down on 18th and Vine where I watched all of that develop, baseball, what have you. And I'm like, where are our kids? The only teams that I really saw down there was Chris's team, the Kings, and I was like, who is this facility for, really? And the more I looked at what was going on, I said, well, what can you do having this media company and get them involved? And I give it to you raw. I would call over there to the new baseball place. I forgot what the young lady and the gentleman who was over there. Never could even get a return phone call. And I was like, this is not going over well, at least with me. And so I said, don't just complain, how can you impact this game? And so I decided I was going to create a baseball talk show and have it once a week. And I started with the IL, a coach named Powell. And I got all the IL coaches involved in the show. I've talked to a couple of people in this room about doing a baseball talk show or using our network to highlight what was going on. But I guess I speak truth to power because I really wasn't familiar with RBI like I, possibly should have been. Everybody's into the RBI system, and so I really couldn't even get no traction with the coaches per se. But since I've done a lot of work with the IL, it wasn't hard for me to get traction. But there's only like three coaches that are really baseball coaches in IL. And Powell said to me, "Hey, my guy Ronnie, he can do some things and get you where you want to be." So I talked to Ronnie, and Ronnie started talking about what I needed to do, invited me to this meeting, because what I had done, I started working with some guys out of St. Louis. One of the gentlemen, he coaches the RBI All-Star game every year out of St. Louis. And they were trying to bring some teams up from St. Louis where they could do some weekend joints, some night games, and so forth. And they were, I was trying to put all of that together. We're media, we're not really equipped for that. And so by talking to Ronnie and the coaches, they were like, "Oh, Satchel Paige, Cleveland, we can make that happen." And so, hence, I'm here. And I think, as Ronnie said, if you have some questions or some ideas, well, we say we have the camera. My first instinct was, I said, "Ronnie, have every coach wear their jerseys or their teams, and we'll do a little short bio on each coach, put it on the network." That would give our fans and people that were interested a little something on what was going on, how many teams you had, and so forth. And I think that because we live in a sports society, if you get the proper coverage, RBI can really blow up big time in the urban core. Because, to be frank with you, I'm interested in the urban core. And not that I exclude anybody else, but the urban core, as I've said, I grew up, Mickey Mantle and those type people were my heroes. It was because I didn't really know the other side of baseball. And I think being able to tell that story, and now we live in a video age, and being able to interview your teams and interview the players, I think there's a whole lot of mileage in that. And with us being in 76 cities in 10 different countries, I think that can have a great impact. If what I find, all coaches, they talk about team play, but a lot of times the coaches themselves don't know how to play, be a team player. And so hopefully, and it looks like you have a real good organization here, because I see the faces. I see people in the seats. So you've got some things that is really hard to put together. People say be at the meeting at 6 o'clock, they come to meet at 6:30, or they don't come at all. And it seemed like on the surface that y'all are dedicated to the RBI. And I'll close with this. This camera is the most powerful thing out here. And when you're not using it, and you don't have your own platform to spread the word, it's going to take you much longer to reach the goals that you, from recruiting, because with this camera, uh, your bitty guys are going to get the exposure that your high school people are going to look at, and your high school guys are going to get the exposure that your college people. And then if you have talk shows and you bring in knowledgeable people on a talk show, not only is that good for the league, you can generate dollars for your organizations that I would think Urban Core, because I'm with the baseball talk show, I've been out talking to the different corporations, and everybody, once upon a time, they used to do it because, hey, we want to help the Urban Core. Now, the corporate community, unless they can see really how they're going to benefit, they're not giving you a quarter, in my estimation. But when, with basketball, they see, oh, Johnny's mama's watching this, Johnny's aunt's watching this, and those are future consumers of tomorrow. And so I think that RBI, especially with the Royals here, and it seems like they're trying to do their part to a degree, and you've got a good cadre of people right here that are committed. So at the end of the day, Cascade Sports, we want to be your network. We have the platform, and it's like, let's get it on.
One thing that I'd like to ask all those, and this is one thing that me personally, I feel that there's a big disconnect with, is that in the city and in the media, our kids getting exposure as far as making videos that they can send off to college, you know, so they can be recruited, so they can have an opportunity to go to college and get an education and change our lives, change their lives, and come back and, you know, change their families' lives. So I see that as a huge asset. Would you be able to help out with that in that regards?
All right, with basketball, some of you might know Coach Reginald Ramsey. With basketball, last year was the first time we did what was known as an exposure camp. And we teamed up with the Kansas City School District. They gave us the field house, and they paid for the security, and we used their insurance. And we invited coaches from out of town and a lot of the JUCO players, and you could go to Cascade Sports and look at the whole camp. I'm saying we had like 30 girls, 35 boys, from the time they came and warmed up to the total workouts and interviews with basically every player that was there, and interviews with every coach that came from out of town that was there. And 7 kids got scholarships from that. We had juniors and seniors out of high school, and we had JUCO players that had finished their 2 years and were looking for another 2 years. And so with the team, the high school coaches that we have on this baseball thing, and they're all the IL coaches, I told them they could have an exposure camp next year. They wanted to have it this year. They felt that they could put it together this year after baseball season, where a lot of kids that weren't recruited. One thing I had overlooked with baseball per se, that with the NAIA, and I come out of an HBCU background, you don't have to be a superstar if you got some good fundamentals. They will give you a scholarship in baseball, because especially if you're African American, they will give you a scholarship. And
in the MIAA?
Huh?
In the MIAA?
No, well, CIAA, you saying?
No, MIAA, like you just said.
Oh no, what I
NAIA. Okay.
I said NAIA.
Okay,
they have all of those different schools, and recruiting baseball players that are coming out of the system. And I heard Ronnie talk about fundamentals, and what like I said, the only thing that I know about baseball to a degree is with Chris and the Kings. If no other person has used social media, I'm saying he baked to me. I'm saying I look at it as I'm just an average consumer, and that comes across. You gonna see the King baseball season. You gonna see that orange on the screen, and you gonna see him putting his team with them trophies. You know, and so I think if all the coaches have access to media, that will be tenfold what's going on and taking over the sports arena as it relates to baseball. With Cascade Sports now, Spectrum doesn't really do sports, high school and these things no more. Metro's not in business no more. It's like we just got finished doing a lot of the district championships, sectionals and what have you. And now when Cascade Sports comes in the gym, the kids in the stand, Cascade Sports is in the house. And that's because we're covering everybody. I was in my office until 2 o'clock last night because I was at Lincoln Prep yesterday doing the girls team, the coaches, and the boys team and the coaches. I go to the practices where I just don't do the star. I do all the players on the team. And if you go to Cascade Sports and go to baseball, you'll see go all the way back to the last page, because that was in 214. I had the Black Sox and a couple other teams. Them kids didn't have no teeth like me. They was like, my name is, I play for, who you play for? The Black Sox. And the parents, that's my baby. And that's what you want. You want to start getting them engaged. And the way you do that really is here.
Can I ask a question?
Another question, because Saturday night I did an interview with the superintendent, Bedell, and I was telling him about we were creating the baseball talk show, and we would talk. We got in. You can look at the interview. Feeder leagues. And I told him that I was getting ready to try to work with RBI. My coaches that I have out of the aisle, we've had 2 or 3 meetings, and they were saying there was only like 3 coaches, and the problem with baseball in the urban core is that you have to start the kids off like this.
From the womb.
And so, what I want to know is, has RBI gotten with the Kansas City School District as it I'm saying I think there might be a different mindset now, because see, I've been at odds with the Kansas City School District for 10 years. I've been covering their sports free, and I'm like, nobody be doing that in their right mind. But they had their girls team won their district, Lincoln. Their boys team won their district. Central won their district and went a little further in the playoffs. And the superintendent, you look at that interview, he was like, and this is all under his leadership per se. And he was talking about making more of a financial investment into sports and the feeder teams.
Why do you think he wants to make a more investment in sports? Because sports keeps all of us, it disciplines us all. It disciplines us.
And
it makes us more determined.
Right.
The other thing about Dr. Bedell and those guys, have you really made
page with that?
Yes,
but you're not hearing me.
No, I hear you.
How do you think Trump got elected? How did Trump get elected?
You can't go
this.
there.
this,
Yeah, yeah.
this,
Yes, you're right.
this.
Yes, you're right.
And so, if you get this working for your bitty teams and your teams, you're gonna get all the support. Those figures, they don't mean nothing. But when they see the kids, that means everything.
That's why you here today.
All right, and so you keep beating the dead horse about the kids got to start at this age and all of that. We all agree on that. But if you put the visual out there, that's going to change the game. If each one of these coaches have their kids constantly, and you seeing little Bobby, they're going to want to even come. The parents are going to want to get involved even more.
That's right.
It's more like you got to get rid of all of that old thinking. That guy Trump has been a master of using this camera. He can lie to you to your face, but the camera, you know, don't people just not following him? He got him snookered.
Personal opinion. So I'm not doing what I did last year just so I could teach myself. And I did honestly talk about this earlier. I'm about to get more media involved with my kids because I do see what Chris is doing and it do work. I mean, the dude got like 100 kids. And I'm like, dang, you know, and they all inner city kids. But then it's like, they all go to the same inner city schools, and then I look at my high schoolers, and I look at the schools like Lincoln, and I'm like, dang, these are where our kids gotta go. And when you go to their practices, you see like, wait, like this is what they showing the kids, and it's like, dang, like, so it's like, I get everything, I didn't, like, I'm like, dang, like, this is what I've been seeing. It's like, I did enter high school this year with some of my kids, and I'm like, okay, I go to some of their schools, and then I got a nephew that's not even in the same state, and he's coming back telling me stuff that he learned here that he doing in a whole nother state, and I'm like, okay, so maybe we are doing something good as a unit because they not learning it from the high school, so it's like, okay, maybe we can. And I do know that Ronnie and other RBI have tried to get into the schools. I personally went to my kids' school to try to figure out where baseball is and why it ain't in the element, because so far none of the schools, you can't play nothing till 7th grade. That's what, 13, 12, 13 years old?
But see, when once you put that camera on, that's why I asked you, do y'all think y'all could have your own baseball show? The more you put that camera on things, the more people want to join. The more the district and what have you. As I said, I was at odds with them, but I called Sanders, and I think I told you this today. I called Sanders yesterday. I said, listen, man, Cascade can't keep doing this free. Y'all got to do something. And I had met with their communications department at the beginning of the season, and they were telling me, oh, well, we don't need you, and we don't this and that, and blah, blah, blah. But the superintendent now, he's been on our show like 3 or 4 times this season. He sees that we're covering all of that. And now I was like, I don't want to go over your head, Sanders, but I'll call Bedell and ask Bedell. And he was like, no, they got a new communications director, gave me their name, contact her, and we're going to see how we can get you a contract. And what I see with RBI, I had no idea y'all had this many coaches.
Oh, this is not
all right. And putting a, what does McDonald's do? They sell more hamburgers, but they constantly advertising. Taco Bell, they constantly advertising. They don't sell nothing different. They come up with a different advertisement, but it's the same old taco, it's the same old quarter pounder. Putting y'all in your uniforms, having your own show, bringing a couple of the knowledgeable, depends on the level, knowledgeable kids on, talking baseball, because now you got RBI around the country. You can invite guests on the show that's from another city and have Kansas City's RBI league one of the best leagues in the nation. And that's building step by step. Now, Chris has an advantage over all of y'all because he has that T-shirt King store. and therefore, apparel wise, and that bright orange does the trick. I'm trying to tell you, I'm in media.
We got green.
Yeah, well, you got green, but you got green, but can you turn out 100 shirts free?
We got red.
He can.
It's costly. It ain't free.
And what I'm saying is, the reason I know so much about Chris, because when I first got in business, first decided to do Cascade, I went to him and nobody else on this, well, maybe somebody else on the planet, but I said, Chris, I got Cascade Sports. Would you do me some hoodies? I think he did 24 hoodies for me with my stuff on there free. And so,
You know, tell everybody.
well, I'm just letting yeah. And so what I'm saying to you is, I think that the timing is right because you are RBI and you are the Girls and Boys Club, and you put this right. You have a talk show. This is sponsored by Black and Beach. This is sponsored by Gates. Your different shows are sponsored by different companies. They can't help but say yes. And then if we're out there with the little kids and you're constantly on a weekly basis showing what you're doing, you're going to get more coaches involved, you're going to get more parents involved, and you're going to get the equipment, you're going to get the Dicks and them are going to do more than they normally would do because you got your show and it's sponsored by them. They want to show we're good corporate citizens. And then with that Kansas City School District, I think they are trying to turn the corner slowly. And you cut some type of deal where you become their feeder system. Because when I said this, it wasn't just paying coaches. I'm talking about to have a good program for the most part, you got to have some money. Because you got to be able to travel, you got to be able to have the equipment for everybody, and the kids, his kids, I know they feel real good when they put that orange on and everybody has it on.
I'm not sure what the discussion is, but for it to really work, having a show, I think it needs to be ran and operated by the kids. For it to really, the kids do the interviews, the kids do the production, the kids learn the video. I mean, they all know more about it than we do anyway. I think for it to really,
I think you could do both. I think the coaches could have a show, the kids could, because
I mean, the coaches could be on the show, but the kids need to be behind the camera. They need to be producing, developing those skills, so they're getting additional something out of it.
Baseball is the hardest sport. It's really no talking. It's more showing. So like
Well,
you said, the kids should be out there demonstrating what the coaches behind the scenes is showing.
well, again, that's my whole thing was, again, how the show with the IL was, it was 2 kids and 1 coach each show, and they talked baseball.
There's a lot of ways you can do it.
Right.
I know our children can do it because of this reason. I mean, we've got a young man that came through the program. He's still in high school, but Aiden, the umpire for us, Aiden basically said, you know what, baseball's not, I love the game, but I'm not where I want to be in the game. So Aiden just started doing podcasts. He learned the media piece of it. Boys and Girls Clubs offer a media piece. So we got kids that are skilled, that are learning the skills of that piece. We got people that can do it. So I like what Chris is saying, because at the end of the day, kids sell these things.
Aiden is actually Trevor's son.
Yeah.
Trevor's son.
Partner.
Exactly.
He's headed to Washington D.C. tomorrow for the national competition. But yes, I think that's a great. I can remember growing up. Remember This Week in Baseball? That was mostly kids that was doing that type of stuff. Yeah, there were some pros, but it was mostly about the kids and the kids doing it. So
Exactly.
One thing I will tell you that you have to worry about, because I have college interns, and reliability. And when you're dealing with the kids, you're almost dealing with the parents on transportation
Tell us about it.
and reliability. And when you're launching something new, you want to make sure that it goes the way it's supposed to go.
I agree with you so much, but you know what I found out?
And I know that nothing's free. Nothing's free at the end of the day. So with me saying that, that means that I'm veering into my budget to see what I could do or we can do to make that happen. That means me possibly talking to other individuals within the organization to make it happen, because I know for a fact the club does have the equipment to do this. All right. And one thing, we as that big logo behind you, Boys and Girls Club, we promote those kids. So those kids being involved is a huge plus. But the thing of it is, whoever it is that's directing this, that is teaching these kids these media things, they have to be qualified. They have to be qualified in order for the show to be successful. It has to be somebody behind the scenes running the show that it's not a. I'm not gonna say that you banging the desk, you know, but it's got to be somebody that has to stick with the numbers, because the numbers. When I'm saying numbers, I mean financially. It doesn't happen without that. But that is something that we look into. You know, whether we start moving it. Well, right now, and I'm not gonna lie to you. Right now, it's me trying to pull the season together, being out 2 and 3 weeks for surgery and all of this kind of stuff, and then the season running and the high school season running. Right now, it's not on my agenda. Right now, on my agenda is to get the high school season started and get the RBI season started. Then I could relax a little bit, and then we could talk about this. But right now, I'm gonna be pushing real hard to get the numbers up as high as we can. I don't care if it's 2,000 kids. Scheduling is gonna be a nightmare, but we are now in the Raytown, and we got 4 more fields out in Raytown. So that being said, we have 13 fields to take care of.
When is your next meeting?
Our next meeting is 2 weeks from today.
I was
Somebody
gonna
got
say,
the date. There's a calendar right
If
there.
the coaches can all wear their uniform there, at least from here up, and be prepared to give us a little short bio on each coach and the team. You can do every single coach.
Next meeting is the 24th. So, with that being said, I want to thank everybody for coming out, especially you, Carlos, because you know what? I find this here on the same scale that I did with Strickland and Rich. That first one that Strickland and Rich did, that was some kind of meeting, and there was a lot of barking across the table and down the table and up. And this one here, some of you guys sit over there quietly. Some of you guys sit quietly, didn't say too much. But and I know I got a man here that can preach. He is a pastor, if y'all didn't know it. So, man, y'all bring these ideas, man. Bring these ideas. I don't care if you have to write them down, bring them, talk about them. Let's do something. I'm tired of this thing going the same way. I'm sick of it. I am. I'm sick of it. I want to see this thing take off and go in a whole different direction, but I want it to be positive. Sure, we're gonna hit some negativity along the way. You know, like I say all the time, I don't care what nobody think about me. I'm gonna keep walking the direction that I know, that I think is the right direction. So, with that being said, any comments? Anybody?
Couple quick things. I just passed out a flyer there, guys, about a baseball clinic and youth sign-up event. It's going to be Saturday, April the 4th. I'm unless somebody
Little blue trace.
somebody didn't take him and pass him down. She kept him out for herself. I'm not gonna throw anybody out there. I'm not even gonna say who it
You're
was.
not talking about her, are you?
No, I'm not talking about her. But the movement stopped right there. However, there's gonna be a little blue trace. There's gonna be a sign-up day. That day is gonna be sponsored by one of our sponsors, the league sponsors, and things of that nature.
Live like Luke
Live like
Angels.
Luke Angels. He's gonna be the guy that's doing this, promoting this day here. Don't forget your free sports physicals. And I cannot say this enough.
You talking register online?
Yeah. For you can register online for the baseball clinic. It is now open for the baseball clinic. If you're coming, please register online because the guy who's doing this from Live Like Luke wants us to register online for this reason. He wants to put together certain things for the kids,
Yep.
and the only way he can put together is have true numbers. Instead of just saying, I'm showing up. To be able to have that thing, whatever he did, I know when he did the basketball piece for the Boys and Girls Club, he had backpacks for the kids, he had hoodies, he did something different.
We
So,
ain't
I'm
talking
saying-
about basketball in here now.
I'm not, I'm just saying, this is the same guy. Okay, free sports physicals April the 18th. However, I'm gonna digress real quick. I have a few slots left for the March 28th hard screening.
This is brought to you by the Location 1 Building, 1734 East 63rd Street. When you invest in your community, you're really just investing in yourself.